Next, more than 40 African heads of state have been meeting in Nouakchott in Mauritania for the final day of the African Union summit. The key focus of the summit was billed as winning the fight against corruption. But it is security issues that have dominated discussions, following a number of attacks by jihadist rebels in fragile Sahel states. Today, French President Emmanuel Macron made an unusual appearance at the conference to talk with leaders from the Sahel G5. The five nations, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania and Niger, were joined together in 2014 with France's backing to work against violent Islamist extremists in the region. Now, their focus is on the troubled tri-border area between Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso. But they have struggled to raise the funds they need for a joint military force with France and the UN. A wave of attacks this weekend have highlighted the deteriorating security situation in the region. Lisa Marie Mistak has the latest.
Security in the Sahel region was high on the agenda at the 31st Summit of African Union Heads of State and Government, which is drawing to a close in the Mauritanian capital, Nouakchott. As the summit, which had a focus on free trade, funding and corruption, opened on Sunday, a bomb aimed at French soldiers in Mali's troubled north killed 4 civilians and injured over 20 people, including 4 soldiers. An al-Qaeda-linked Islamist group in Mali has claimed responsibility for the attack, saying it was a message to French President Emmanuel Macron ahead of his meeting with the G5. It was the first attack on the headquarters of the G5 nation force, set up with the backing of France in 2017 to roll back jihadist insurgents and criminal groups in the vast unstable Sahel region.
I condemn these attacks against our Security Council forces in the G5 Sahel region. And these attacks must not cause us to give up. These attacks must strengthen our determination to continue the fight against terrorism and organized crimes, to ensure the security of our territories and the safety of our populations.
President Macron will meet with G5 member states on the sidelines of the summit. He reinforced France's commitment to fight terrorism.
I reaffirm the commitment of France and the other countries of the G5 Sahel to fight backwardness and cowardice, of which the main victims are Africans themselves.
The African Union says it's willing to make tough decisions to bring stability to the continent, but the organisation is struggling to solve regional crisis, including the conflict in South Sudan, Somalia and Libya. African Union President Moussa Faki Mahamat stressed the importance of focusing on current reform of the Union.
We must also speed up the pace of institutional reform of our Union. Reform is an existential condition of our Union. Significant progress has been made, especially on the financial side of the reform, but we need to build on this momentum.
The leaders also discussed promoting free trade between African countries. In March, 44 nations signed a pact to create the African Continental Free Trade Area, or CAFTA as it's known. If all 55 African Union members eventually sign up, it will create a bloc with cumulative GDP of $2.5 trillion. But one of the continent's economic heavyweights, Nigeria, is a notable CAFTA absentee. A positive aspect to come out of the summit is South Africa, Sierra Leone, Lesotho, Burundi and Namibia's decision to join CAFTA, which brings the continent one step closer to improved inter-African trade with a market of up to 1.2 billion people. Lisa Marie Mistak, BBC News.
We stay in Mauritania just a little longer because the BBC's Bassam Bounenni is at the summit and sent us this a short time ago.
Another African gathering with mixed hopes. Here in Nouakchott, Mauritania, it was supposed to mainly discuss the fight on corruption, but attacks in neighboring Niger and Mali sent shivers to African leaders, warning them of security shortcomings and failings. French President Emmanuel Macron joined the summit. His country has been leading Barkhane, a large-scale anti-insurgent operation in the Sahel region. With the constellation of regional conflicts, the AU summit discussed crises in West Sahara, South Sudan and Central African Republic, besides upcoming elections in Zimbabwe and the Democratic Republic of Congo. A special attention went to the Libyan crisis. In the summit, Wings officials told us they were still dithering over the way to deal with international pressure to hold elections by the end of the year in this war-torn country. Their main concern is that any elected government could be unable to restore peace and stability, mainly because of the so powerful militias spread out across the country. Bassam Bounenni, BBC, Nouakchott, Mauritania.